let's finish off quadrilaterals. Maybe I should say quadrilateral areas, you know, the last one, because after this, we're going to move on to some different kinds of shapes. This is where we'll show you them. The last two, I wanted to very similar to each other. So before we get to them, let's just remember, right? We learned a series of basic shapes, very, very simple shapes, okay? That started with the rectangle. The rectangle, and what's the area of a rectangle? Length times breadth. Yeah, very good. Let's get our hands up for these ones, okay? We thought about the area of a triangle, right? Which is hands up. Who's got me a no?
It was half times height times base.
Yeah, good. We usually write it in alphabetical. Actually, I was going to say alphabetical order, but this is not alphabetical order. So anyhow, this is though half base times height tends to be the way that it's written. It's worth noting, right, that you've got breadth across here, L up here. Literally, a triangle is just half a rectangle. That's why it's half, okay? Other kinds of shapes we looked at, there's that special kind of rectangle where all of the sides are the same, which of course is the square. Very good. And if each side is like S for side, okay? Side, 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 then we would say the area is S squared. Get it? Because it's a square, okay? Yeah. Now again, coming off the rectangle, and I hope you remember, by the way, right? When we did that whole big, you know, whiteboard full diagram of how all of the shapes fit together, right? We had all those arrows showing the relationships. We shouldn't be surprised that there are all these relationships between not just the shapes, but the formulas that give us their areas, right? So, after this guy, we looked at the parallelogram, right? And what's the area of a parallelogram? Yeah.
Length times breadth.
Okay, so be careful with this one. It is kind of length times breadth, but if you call this one here the breadth, right, then you can't just use this leaning over side for the length, right? You need something else. Yeah, Shane.
Why is it called breadth?
Breadth, how broad something is, like broad-shouldered. And so
I always think of
you could use
bread.
broad. Breadth is the noun. Okay. So.
Length is a lot more. Like
Well, yeah, it depends. So Adam, yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. And the way I remember this, remember we mentioned this last time, is it's got a right angle. It literally looks like an H for height. Okay, so you've got your height there, and its area is base times height. Okay, or breadth times height, if you like. Okay, now from there, from all of these, we moved on to composite areas. Do you remember that? Composite shapes? What's a composite shape? Who remembers? Hand up. Who remembers a definition or a way to explain what a composite shape is? Somebody hasn't said anything yet today. Yeah, Ethan, you want to give it a shot?
The figures made up of other shapes.
Fantastic. Figures, right, that are made up of, that's what composite means, other kinds of shapes. Like these kinds of guys, okay? Now the reason why this is really helpful is because when we looked at last lesson, we did the trapezium. Remember that? Something like this, okay? And the reason why it was helpful to go from composite shapes to this is because we can slice this thing up. I had that piece of paper out, and I said, okay, let's divide up this shape. I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm going to go to halfway down this side. It's going to look like this. Okay? And you can see what I've got up in here is, I'll just put it in blue for you. I have a triangle. Right? Can you see that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that triangle and I literally rotated it around this point here. Okay? And what I ended up with is something like this. Okay? It's the same triangle, so it's the same area. I've just rearranged it a little bit. And what's great about it is now I can see, by thinking of the trapezium as a composite shape, this trapezium is exactly the same as this triangle. That's the triangle we saw. Okay? You've got one parallel side here, another parallel side here. This is our height. Again, you've got the H-looking thing from the right angle. And so that's why the area of this thing is just like the area of this thing. It's just that the base is how long? How long is that base?
About 22.
It's going to be, in this case,
25.
A plus B, right? A plus B. And that's where we got our area of a trapezium from.